Hello and welcome to This Is Ibrox, the Rangers podcast.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of This Is Ibrox, the Rangers podcast. I'm Martin Douglas, and joining me tonight are Scott Patterson and Thomas McIntyre. How you doing, guys?
Hi, Martin. Good evening.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No bother. Wally isn't here this week because his missus had to go and have a wee operation, so everybody at This Is Ibrox family is wishing him well and his missus, because I know he needs to look after the kids, which isn't easy.
Here.
Yeah, I hope his missus well, sending our best wishes.
Right, guys, I thought we would start just a couple of minutes talk. Last week was the 5th anniversary of the takeover of the club by the board at the AGM. Scott, it's fair to say it's been eventful.
Indeed. It's been 5 years of quite a few ups and downs. Roller coasters been the word that's been used quite a lot in that period of time, and it has been that. But there's no doubt that we'll look back on that particular period of time, and when those three guys done what they done, it's something we'll be grateful for a long time. Probably when my wee fellas supporting Rangers, and they'll look back in that period and they'll look on it with a bit of fondness, because these guys are right in there with our history now, and kept us going.
It is fair to say, Thomas, though, that they have made some mistakes.
Yeah, I think, if you open the ledger there, in the plus column, you've got putting the club back in an even keel, getting us more competitive, making us a name in Europe again. And then maybe on the other side of that ledger, you've got Pedro Caixinha. I'd probably just draw a line under that one. Maybe a bush in Luxembourg as well somewhere. But yeah, ups and downs. But overall, I don't think anybody would argue that the board that came in and changed the regime, so to speak, did a magnificent turn for the club and put us back close to where we belong.
Scott, do you think any incoming board has had to fight as many fires as this current one?
No, not at all. And I mean, even now, 5 years down the line, they continue to bat away a lot of nonsense, particularly around retail deals, etc. So they're still actively dealing with a lot of rubbish. Frankly, they're probably just determined to continue to get the football club back into talking about football and just maintaining and managing that side of things. They do still need to deal with a lot of things that they probably thought 5 years ago they just wouldn't have had to think about. As I say, the three guys are such passionate Rangers fans as well, which helps enormously. Where I sit at the ground, John Gilligan used to sit just about 2 or 3 rows down in front of me, and I never knew who he was, but I always seen him as a passionate fan for goals or questioning referees' decisions inevitably. And then when he suddenly appeared alongside Paul Murray and Dave King walking around the track at Ibrox that afternoon, to put the face to the name was really good. And I don't think I was a prouder guy in the country that day than John Gilligan, certainly.
Yeah, it's just good to actually have people and running the club now that are genuine Rangers men after everything that we've had to put up with. That's for sure. Right, moving on then, guys. First of all, I have to apologise to anybody listening. I've either got the cold or the coronavirus. I'm not sure which one, but if you hear any sniffling, I do apologise. Thomas, Leon King, young defender, signed his first professional deal. There's a lot of noise coming from people at the club that this young boy's something special.
Yeah, certainly. It's always good to tie down and talent, whether it's potential talent or actually fully developed. And there's no doubting that it's a good news story for the club in terms of being able to fend off people who were supposedly looking at him, such as Tottenham, Man U, Manchester City. And there's an understanding that Rangers slightly tweaked and broke their wage structure for youth players to get the agreement over the line. Such was the belief in Leon King. There's also, from the news that came out from the club, there was also an understanding that Leon would be given, a bit of a fast-tracked pathway towards the first team, which I think is no bad thing for Rangers, and something we probably have to do more of if we're supposed to keep these players. I think one of the nuances to that we sometimes forget is that we benefit from cross-border from England and picking up players such as Joe Aribo on the cheap, so to speak, but so can English clubs to us, and that's particularly so when it comes to youth. So yes, Rangers have got all the tools behind the scenes in terms of an incredible youth department, but it's an important part to nail these players down on long contracts and then get them playing in the first team. But ultimately, a great news story.
Scott, not surprisingly by some people in the media, we've been slated for not bringing through young talent. But they never mention what happened to us in 2012 when they talk about this. How important is it now for us, though, to start bringing through youth?
Yeah, I think it's critically important now for us. We speak, or we have rather spoken for a long time now about how the next group of youth guys is the cream of the crop, and it almost feels as if we say that almost 3 years down the line repetitively, and we don't seem to get that crop just coming through. As far as Leon King's concerned, everything you read about him and see about him suggests that he is the real deal. He's got a huge future ahead of him, and he's 16, I'm sure he is, and he's some size of a boy. I seen him at the game last Wednesday, the Hamilton game, and he was sitting in the director's box, and he's a big bit of a boy for 16, let me tell you. If he continues to grow at the rate that he's clearly done already, we're in for a real strong, powerful centre half for a good few seasons to come, hopefully. It would be good to see him before the end of the season. Whether he'll get his crack at centre half between now and middle of May, I think remains to be seen. But I think he'll certainly be in and around first team squads. Interesting to hear Tommy speak about the pathway that's been mentioned to him. I wouldn't say promised, but certainly there's a suggestion that he could make it into the first team. I wonder what the difference is with Ross Wilson being there and offering that pathway to our youth team. It'd be interesting to know if they were given such particular guarantees when Mark Allen was around. I can't help but think we'd maybe be talking about another starlet moving down south this week.
Well, just on that point, Tommy, the way that the seasons went, and we're coming close to the end of the season, should Gerrard be looking at a few youth players to bring them into the team?
Well, that's a wide-ranging question, and I don't know if I've joined the short straw because I'm not a usual member of the podcast here. So I'll take a deep breath with that one.
You don't get the easy questions.
No, evidently not. I'll make some comments that mean you have to stitch all this together in the editing room. Maybe even harder for you, but I think it depends how you're looking at it, and not to allow myself too long a throat clearing here. If you're looking at it from a perspective that you fully believe that the title race is over, then do you bring in players? Yes, to allow them to have a run of games and looking towards the start of next season when they should be absolutely challenging the first team members as are. Or are you worried about the team's not playing particularly well? Do you put these players in and set them back from a confidence level? I know more and more emphasis is put on young players' mental development and the ability to hold the confidence in what they're doing. And I can't help but feel a young player, even one of our own, in inverted commas, playing in front of an angry Ibrox crowd, maybe making a few bad passes or selling a goal, might feel themselves really under pressure. I suppose if you were to ask me this question after Sunday, I might have a different answer, but fully expecting to perform well on Sunday. I think that players should still be round about the squad as they are, training with the first team a couple of times a week, like Kai Kennedy and Patterson, etc. Being in the squad on the bench or the 19th man and making some substitute appearances between now and the end of the season is probably the best that we can and should expect. This full squad, the main senior squad, should be able to do its job professionally and get us over the line this season.
Sounded like a slight cop out there, but I'll give you. No, but Scott, Thomas makes a good point there. Is it a good idea to bring in the youth when we are in such bad form and they might be in front of an angry Ibrox, or would it settle the Ibrox crowd down knowing that there is maybe one or two youths in there?
I think it's a really, really difficult one to answer. I think when you bring in these guys, a lot depends on what position they're playing. For example, would you bring in a young midfielder, for example, to play centre mid? Game passes them by, a couple of stray passes, and the reality is that we as a support don't really deal with young players coming into the first team particularly well if things begin to go a wee bit tits up, for want of a better term or expression, and that's just the way of it, in my opinion. Personally, I would like to see Nathan Patterson get some more game time between now and the end of the season, and I would like to see Kai Kennedy get a bit more game time as well. Obviously, both were at the bench on the bench at the weekend, and I think both will get some game time between now and the end of the year. It's not an easy one to answer as things stand just now, because the league isn't mathematically gone. It's going to be a hell of a hard now, as everyone knows, and we're still battling in the Europa League front. So Gerald will want to go full pelt, strongest teams possible in either of these competitions for however long we're still in them. So I don't think he'll just throw these 17, 18-year-olds into the team and expect it to happen or for them to gel in with what's there already.
I think they're spot on. I think the one there is who might get the majority of the game time, and I think you've picked up on it absolutely correctly, is probably Patterson. I think there's space there, depending on how long Tavernier's injury is, but also the lack of maybe an absolute first choice replacement for him, and also Tavernier's loss of form when he's been playing. So I think Patterson maybe looks like the one who could cement something between now and the end of the season.
Well, I think I've been a wee bit unfair on my main man Polster there, but
we can get all things red, white, and blue, and God bless the USA and all that.
One person, Thomas, who would have been in the team towards the end of the season would be young Billy Gilmore. He's had a cracking couple of games for Chelsea, and I know he's not at the team anymore, and I know it's not really Rangers related, but just quickly on Billy Gilmore, he's played fantastic against Liverpool and Everton, controlled the games, got man of the match, and yet finds himself in the Scotland under-21s team.
Well, yeah, and I know we spoke about this briefly, before we came on, and I was making the joke that he's no Alan Power or anything like that, and he doesn't play on 2G with bits of black rubber, taking his eye out every time he goes in for a challenge. So he was never going to look up from the bottle and watch him. So I think there is an expectation that he goes into the team. And that's the full senior team, and he probably should get shot. I think we just need to be very careful in this country in particular that we've got a terrible habit of latching on to any performance and then making that player the second coming. That's not to play down Billy Gilmore's ability. I think he is the genuine real deal, and so does Frank Lampard. And Lampard can't know a midfielder, then nobody can. The bookend to that I'd just like to mention, I agree with you that he's no longer at Rangers, but two things that do interest me about him is one, and we touched on this with Leon King, that's an example of the pathway not working and a player leaving, and so we need to be very conscious of that. I'm sure Rangers are in trying to nail down their best talent and bring talent in the door. And also when we did sell him, I think we got $500,000 up front. but there is a sell-on clause there, and I think there's some appearance clauses where Rangers continue to get money if he makes the grade. So from that perspective, I'm fully behind them doing well for Chelsea and becoming a full international, because it might always be to the eventual benefit of Rangers' balance sheet.
The one negative that I was thinking about, Scott, was Billy Gilmour going down and playing fantastic for Chelsea. It's brilliant, and it's brilliant for Scottish football, but could it be a negative for us with respects to trying to keep a hold of young talent? Because we've been able to say in the past, if you take that big money move down south, you'll get stuck in our youth teams, you'll end up in League Two, you won't get a game. Is this now saying to young players, well, do you know what? No, see, if you're good enough, you can go down there at a young age and you can work your way into the first team whilst making a shed load of money?
I think there's definitely elements of truth in that. I mean, the obvious thing is if Billy Gilmour was still at Rangers right now, would he be playing in the first team just now? I'm not sure he would be, bizarrely enough, and I can't quite explain why. I'm not sure he would be in the first team now. I read things on social media last week that he'd probably plying his trade at Capello or Dumbarton or something like that, just to get games under his belt to give him first team football type thing. Listen, the boy's he's a really, really good player. I saw bits and pieces of him at the weekend. One thing that absolutely fascinated me about him was every time you look at him, he's always looking around. He's looking over his shoulder all the time. The master of that in English football, for as long as I can remember recently, was Frank Lampard. Any footage you look at Frank Lampard when he played for Chelsea, he's forever looking over his shoulder, see how much space he's got, see if he's got time to play a pass left, right or forward. Gilmour is absolutely adopting that into his game. And there's no doubt he's going to be a mainstay in the Chelsea team for the next couple of years. There's absolutely no question of that.
Just a quick shout out as well, Scott, to the under-18s managed by Kevin Thompson. They went up to Aberdeen and gave them a right good pumping. And 2 weeks previous, Aberdeen actually beat them in the Cup. So to go up there and get a right good result is fantastic for the under-18s.
Yeah, listen, it was absolutely payback for Kevin Thompson, wasn't it? I read his a couple of bits and pieces on his after-match stuff. He was really, really pleased with how that went. I think more so after the disappointment of the sort of previous meeting between the two teams. It's worth pointing out today as well, it's been a really good day for our youth academy. Well over a dozen players have been called up for the under-21s, the 19s and the 17s for the Scotland national team. So if there's ever any debate that there are some things going right at the Rangers Training Centre, that is absolutely it. These youth guys are there and they are well worth being considered as far as I'm concerned. It's well worth checking out the Youth Academy Twitter page as well for all your things youth-wise, at RFC_youth, capital Y. A lot of good content in there, interviews with some of the young players and some match footage as well. I recommend you check it out. A lot of good interviews.
Just finally on the youths, and we'll move on to the Ross County game. Thomas, it's been a pretty good year and a half for all our youth teams.
Well, yeah, and I think, to echo what's just been said there, I think it was quite clear that, and this maybe goes all the way back to the very first topic we covered in terms of the board's first 5 years. Part of the mainstay of the plan and the mainstay of the business model is to make it self-sustainable, and a lot of that is player development and player trading. And so a lot of money was put in behind the scenes to not only, rebuild the club infrastructure, but in particular the scouting, which is at all age levels, and then the academy and the background staff to that as well. Ross Wilson's the capstone of that now in terms of being the director of football, but it's clear that there's been a hell of a lot of work put in there, and we're being looked at from a European and global perspective of people starting to visit the Rangers Training Centre and the academy to learn best practice. We had the European Best programmes, etc., which were a departure. So it's no surprise, but it's great to see that the players are now developed to a position where they are essentially best in country, and it's just about pushing that forward and getting them into the first team. So there's a direct line to draw from, the board's position all the way through people like Leon King and Billy Gilmore, Nathan Patterson, etc., and the work being done behind the scenes in the club's academy. It's a really bright future there.
Okay, well, moving on to probably less happier topics. We travelled up to Dingwall on Sunday. A couple of changes in the team. Polster came in for Tav. I wonder who called that. Canberra went onto the bench. Morelos started up front. Were you happy with the starting lineup, Tam? I don't know. Tam or Thomas?
Definitely a Thomas or a Tommy. Absolutely no Tam, because given my height restriction, people always call it wee Tam, and I'm definitely not that. The nightmares of going to roller coasters and not being allowed to ride them, coming back to the fold there.
and forever you will be known as wee Tam.
Yeah. Myself there. I'll get back in after this to the editing suite and see if we can sort it. T-Bone will do. Right.
Starting lineup.
Yeah, I think one or two Mystic Meg types called the Polster thing, and God love them.
They are the smartest people.
And some of them are just lucky, and not pointing any fingers. But I think that was a fair change. I think Morelos being in there as well was unsurprising. I thought if I was to draw out Polster in particular, I thought Polster had a reasonably decent game in what were challenging conditions and a challenging team. And let's be honest, we didn't play particularly well. But yeah, I thought Polster was a decent addition. Although personally, I would have played Patterson.
Fair enough. I wouldn't, but fair enough. I had a look at the bench, Scott, and does the bench look strong enough for you now?
No, I don't think it does. And to be honest, I don't know. I'm really not sure how he changes it as such, as from a sort of options perspective. There was not a lot on there at all. And considering the way that some of the guys played, you would have been looking to sort of make a change and just freshen it up. But as the game was going on and we were just trying to get a breakthrough without having a lot of joy or playing particularly well, there was nothing really on the bench that made you think, I will be okay. It was more a case of, Jesus Christ, will someone just score, frankly?
Well, we'll come on to the first half, and wee Tam. We'll come to the penalty in a minute. What should have been a penalty in a minute, but I was taking notes, trying to take notes for the pod, and I'll be honest, in the first half, my page was empty. It was a really poor first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably symptomatic of where we've been since the turn of the year, or the Dubai effect, or whatever we want to call it. Since we came back, there's been a kind of a position whereby we know we weren't playing well, St Mirren, Stringard, etc., but we were getting by, and you kind of chalk that up initially to the lethargy and the fact that we're seeing it out, and you think, the conversation has turned from those results where it was a case of, well, do you know what? Last season we wouldn't have won these, and these are what you need to do to win a title or a trophy. You need to grind them out. That's good to see. To Kelly and Hearts, which was more of a, right, those results have caught up with us now, and we're not getting the run of green and the luck. There's no doubt in my mind, and I don't think anybody watching it with the kind of blue tinted specs on, or any impartials, would have thought we rocked up in Dingwall absolutely devoid of confidence, and nobody really wanting to take the game on. One or two tried, I think that they were working hard, which is all you can ask for sometimes. But it was a pretty dire first half, and you got the feeling that we would cause our own mistake again. And we did have a few mistakes. Playing the ball at the back has become a particular feature of that. particularly on bad pitches. Like, somebody looked like they'd attacked the pitch with a JCB overnight. But ultimately, we managed to grind out the first half as well. But there's no getting away from the fact that there was a real lack of quality, and you can't put that all down to the pitch or the weather, etc. There was just a lack of belief in people's ability to go and attack defenders, which were, a lot less ability-wise than the Rangers squad.
And Scott, when you're down on confidence, you're down in your luck, you're not playing particularly well, sometimes you just need that little bit of luck. And that should have came on the 37th minute when Polster does well to get the ball, crosses it in, low cross, Fontaine slides, and it hits his arm. Penalty.
It's an absolute stone waller, isn't it? I mean, I when it happened, I looked at it a couple of times and I thought, is it just the way that he's kind of slid in and he's just not been able to get his arm out the road? But it's incredible that it wasn't given. It really is absolutely incredible. I couldn't believe that it was even up for debate. It's a definite penalty. Should have been given. Shouldn't have even been discussed. Straight to the spot for me, without question.
There's been rule changes for handball, but even before they changed the rule for handball, Thomas, that's a penalty anyway.
Well, I think, I'm maybe less vociferous about it. It has to be said. And that's, you can tell that I'm not going to get invited back now, to be honest with you. Since you've called me V-Tam, I just went right off the road.
Also, using words like vociferous will definitely not get you invited back.
Yeah. I've got Google Translate here, help me. But, I think, Fontaine's going in at speed. I do believe it's a penalty, right? I do think that. I'm trying to be fairly impartial about it. I think what probably gets him out of jail, maybe in the referee's mind, and the linesman's mind more probably, because the linesman's got a slightly better view of it from a side-on perspective, is that it goes to ground relatively early, and it's the momentum that's taking him through. And I don't know anybody who would slide on their side and not, have an arm out. I still think it's an unnatural position, and by the letter of the law, it's a penalty, and it should have been a penalty. But it's probably, again, symptomatic of the fact that if there's anything even remotely debatable with the Rangers' decision these days, we seem to always fall on the wrong side of the coin. And I think that there's something psychological about that for the officials, that it's just easier to wave it away. And that's maybe not just
You sounded like you went into a tunnel there at the end of that, but
putting a bag over my head. Managed to fight him off.
Scott, is it possible that the ref judged it not to be a penalty simply because Fontaine was already on a yellow, and if that's a penalty, that's a second yellow card and he's off? Or am I just overthinking it?
If I was being honest with you, I think you are overthinking it a little bit. It comes back. There's no danger that, I don't think the ref could have made the call. I think Tommy's absolutely spot on, but the linesman must have a great view of it, a cracking view of it. And even if without seeing it again in front of me, I'm sure the ball is drifting right into the path of Morelos. So he would have a clear effort on goal. The reality is, the crux of it is, it was a handball. It should have been a penalty. Again, Tommy's right. We seem to be on the end of critical decisions in games that are going against us, and it's proven to be a real bugbear as the season goes on, to be perfectly honest.
We will come on to Morelos a wee bit later in the podcast. So half time, Thomas, what's your thoughts at half time? You thinking maybe make some changes because it was really dire?
Well, I think you guys have picked up on that earlier, though. Yeah, would be the answer. You want to make changes, but you turn and look at that bench and you're thinking, where's the game changer? Where's the ability to change the shape or change the dynamic and the flow of the game? Because we were having a lot of the ball, but we weren't penetrating. Morelos, and I know we'll speak about him, more later on, but wasn't as, let's say, dynamic and predatory as he's been, and we know he can be. We weren't really getting in behind him as much as we could, and we were kind of stodgy in the midfield, backing sides type of scenario. So yeah, you're looking for a change, but ultimately I'd probably go with Gerrard here. The only real change that looked like it could be on is Jones coming on for some direct running to try and get down the wing and throw the ball into the middle. That's, again, where we are a little bit in terms of throwing the ball into the middle and hoping that something's going to happen. We seem to be playing that way, hoping something's going to happen, as opposed to getting out and making it happen, which is what we were doing earlier in the season. But to answer your question, yeah, we were absolutely bloody well looking for a change, but not entirely sure what it was going to look like.
So we go into the second half, Scott, and I'm thinking to myself, half time, the manager's going to go through them. We really need this win. Never mind the performance, we just need to grind out this win. And for the first 20-25 minutes, I was hiding behind the sofa. We were terrible.
Yeah, they were really poor. If he said to them at half time that he almost demanded a reaction for the first sort of 30 minutes, or certainly the first half of the second half, if you like, then again, I would suggest they really weren't listening, because there was more than a few moments in the second half that we were sort of riding our luck a little bit. Once again, we look to the big man in the sticks to keep things right for us. McGregor again, a couple of really good saves, but that opening part of the second half just wasn't good enough, and it's against Ross County. And for everyone that's listening and our friends in Dingwall, which I'm sure they will be, I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but we should be winning that quite comfortably. We should be by far the better team. I don't care what anyone says, we just should be dominating these games. We didn't. Simple as that. We just never done it.
There was 2 points in the start of the second half where their player, I don't know his first name, but Mullen, he walked straight through the defence twice. And the first time he walks through the defence, he passes it to Stewart, and Stewart really should have scored. I suppose we're quite thankful that pitch was that bad. But to be able just to walk through the midfield and defence like that's a big drop-off in performance.
I think from my perspective, the last thing you want is we've kind of went for the first 6 months of the season and we had a relatively well-developed spine of the team. So we had a sort of 2 centre-halves, one man sitting ahead of them, 2 midfielders ahead of that, and then Morelos up top. I don't know if the fact that we've had to rejig things back and forward over the last wee while has just sort of removed a bit of continuity and consistency that's in there. But yeah, I mean, the run that you're talking about when Josh Mullen it was that went right through the middle, it was the old sort of traditional hot knife through butter type thing. It was poor, really poor. And fortunately for us, it didn't come to anything. But against a better team than Ross County, we would have definitely lost the game at the weekend, no question.
And Thomas, sorry, on you go, Thomas.
I was just going to say, I think that's a really valid and well-made point there in terms of, it's almost, the only nuance I'd add to it is that I think if you go back to the first half time and in the second half is, you can almost see, and I think the stat is since the turn of the year, we've scored 1 goal in the first half an hour of a game. You can almost see the players slowly tightening up the longer the game goes on, that we haven't found the back of very little freedom. The only time, the first time we really saw that disappear was going 2-0 down Ibrox against Braga, and then all of a sudden we started to play a real good bit of football and then dominated out in northwest Portugal as well. But in games like up at Dingwall against Ross County, you could slowly see them tightening, and then they start to drop off. And then you're absolutely right, a better team would have taken one of those chances, and I don't think Rangers would have had the capability to come back into it if they'd have went 1-0 down.
And one man who I maintain is the gaffer's best signing is Alan McGregor. The second time Josh Mullen walked through the defence, McGregor saves. And Thomas, just how valuable is McGregor to this team?
I think it's incalculable. In all honesty, I think there's the ability to make those saves. I'm obviously just on a trail now of thinking of the longest words that I can possibly use. Supercalifragilistic. But I think there's not only the fact that he makes big saves, and I'm sure he's an absolute terror in the dressing room as well, but the ability to instill confidence in the back four probably shouldn't be underestimated as well. And I know we're not playing particularly well, but we all know enough to know that if you've got a decent keeper behind you, you're willing to play a bit more freely, and that's how we need to play. So I don't think you can overestimate just how important Alan McGregor has been. It's a real sad moment that so far in his second spell that he's not picked up a trophy, because he absolutely deserves one.
There was one moment in the 68th minute, and I probably shouldn't have laughed, but Ross County had a corner. In comes the corner, and George Edmondson absolutely flattens Barisic. And I'm just thinking, Scott, the one person you don't want to flatten is the £22 million man.
Listen, you're absolutely right. I can quite imagine that would be like a fridge falling on top of you. He is an absolute monster of a boy, and I say boy, and I don't use the term too loosely. I mean, he is a young guy. He's a young guy. I mean, if we can keep George Edmondson for another few years, which we certainly hope we do, he's going to develop into a really, really useful centre half to have at the club. He's an absolute monster. But yeah, I'm actually surprised that Barisic was able to get up and carry on for the rest of the game. Usually when he gets knocks like that, he's missing for about 4 or 5 weeks. So fingers crossed he's going to be fit for the 2 games we've got coming up this week.
Oh, it was an absolute peach. But then we go on to the 77th minute, because again the second half, just nothing's going our way. I'm sitting watching thinking, here we go again. I'm shouting for subs, and the one person, Thomas, that I want off the pitch is Alfredo Morelos. His whole performance really was shocking, but the subs made were Jones came on for Kamara, who I actually thought in a team that didn't play well had a pretty decent game.
Yeah, I thought Kamara was reasonable, and it's probably to his credit that we're only saying reasonable because when he first came on board, such was the standard of these performances that we generally thought he was going to be absolutely dynamite, and he still might very well be, and probably will. It's just that he's tailed off. You'll need to bear with me whilst I dredge up the memories of those final 20 minutes, because I think I'd really hit the bottle quite heavily by that point, such was the group for the game. And I think with Morelos, it's the conundrum. He's starting to play like a buffalo that's been shot. And so I don't know if it's just the fact that there's a lot going on in his personal life. And I think if I was that age, 6,000 miles away from home, my mum's ill, I'm getting, racist abuse from the stands. Nobody seems to respect my skill in the mainstream media, no matter what I do. I'm starting to think, is it really worth it? Particularly if I'm playing a team that's going off the boil. I don't think he's doing that. I think he's just a young man with a lot in his mind. I do actually harbour a wee feeling, though, that he does look as if he's carrying just a wee bit extra timber. And that might just be me, and I'm not fat shaming him there for anybody that writes that in the comments. But what he's certainly missing from what he had in bags earlier in the season is just that wee killer instinct, and also maybe just that wee bit of luck when he was hitting shots that were just going in instinctively. And it seems to be he's up against a run of some, unfortunate misses. He had the header off the bar against Hamilton, but also keepers seem to be fairly inspired against him at the moment as well. But he maybe just needs to up the work rate again, because that's the only way he can play himself out this moment.
Well, I was going to come on to him later, but we'll do it now, Scott. His performance was poor. Yes, he's got a lot on his mind. And if that is the case, surely the manager's got to see that and take him off far earlier than the 89th minute.
I didn't. Again, he never covered himself in a great deal of glory. I never felt. Now, I said last week on episode 1 that if he's fit, he has to play. Absolutely stand by that. He would be one of the first names on my team sheet every single week if he's fit. And at the moment, I worry just how fit he is, frankly. As I say, I think he has to be involved and will continue to always be. He'll always have something to say in the game, whether it's coming on for the bench or starting. He'll always, if he starts the bench, he'll always come on. I just think at the moment he looks like he's very much out of sorts, and I don't know if it's because of all the things that we've seen going on recently. I'm not entirely sure, but he's certainly not the guy that we had firing all cylinders heading towards the end of 2019.
No, for me, it was a red card waiting to happen. But so the subs are made, and I'm also wanting Kent off. I'm shouting at the TV, get Kent off. He's done absolutely nothing. He was trying, but just nothing was coming off for him. And then he scored. He takes the ball up the right, cuts inside, and a deflection of Mr. Amy McDonald. Thomas, we needed that badly.
Well, I think that's maybe the understatement of the season. I'm not entirely sure he would have got his goal bonus for the Treasury at Ibrox, I'll tell you that. But he's willing to cut inside, he's willing to take the shot on, and there's maybe more to be said in that than it hitting the back of the net, because there is a huge deflection. It was good to see that Kent, who I feel is an absolute confidence player, and again still a young boy, with a big weight on his shoulders, with not just being a heavy price tag, but a heavy price tag in Scotland and a heavy price tag for Rangers coming out of post, where we were. There's a real big amount of pressure on that boy's shoulders. And the fact he was willing to go back to the well and cut inside and take the shot spoke volumes, because certainly in the last couple of games, how many times have we seen somebody cuts inside, we're screaming, I think Gerrard's been screaming since he took the job over, hit some shots outside the box, and we see it get passed across the edge of the box, moved back outside, somebody to whip it in for the defence to clear. So, you know what, all good luck to the boy. We did need the luck. I think it got us out of jail. But it was good to see somebody actually take a crack at goal, because if you don't do that, you won't score. And
then we kind of the game kind of petered out after that, to be perfectly honest. But there was one on the 91st minute, Ross County had a corner, and again, the defence is just really struggling to clear the ball. I think Connor Goldson, Scott, had 2 attempts to try and clear it.
Aye. Kind of fluff 1 and then fluff 2 a wee bit, wasn't it? I think at that stage you just want to get away back down the road with the 3 points. Let's be honest, we'd sort of snatched that goal. I actually felt a wee bit sad after I saw the goal, and I'll tell you the reason why. The players looked like they didn't know whether to celebrate that they had scored or be relieved that they weren't going to be under huge scrutiny again on what is going to be a massive week for the football club. Ryan Kent looked thoroughly miserable after he scored.
He actually looked a wee bit scared, if I'm being honest.
Aye, I mean, and it's maybe an indictment of where some of these players' mind is just now, and that sort of, we've heard that loads the last wee while, loser mentality, and they don't have this and they don't have that. As I say, I just felt they looked so glum after scoring. They really did. It was like they didn't know how to celebrate, like they forgot almost. Listen, the 2 chances at the end where Goldson's kind of defending for his life, at that point you just clear your lines and get down the road with the 3 points. Simple as that, because that's what we needed. That's what we needed from that game. 3 points, nothing more, nothing less, just that.
At the very, very end of the game, Thomas, we got a free kick for a rugby tackle on Canberra. And I believe he didn't even get booked for it.
No, I mean you're absolutely right. I think if you look really closely in the slow motion, Canberry's skeleton stays behind and his skin moves forward. Such the challenge, but I mean again, if you're looking at that with any rational view, so taking the Rangers supporter out of me for a second, you're looking at that and you're thinking anywhere in the game, on any part of the pitch, that's a yellow card because there's intrinsically no, attempt for the ball. It's clearly, I don't know what you call it, grievous bodily, obstruction or some sort of thing, just to stop Canberra getting through. And yet the referee gives a free kick and feels that the job's done. Now, it beggars belief that an official referee in that capacity, along with his staff, can look at that and say, no, either the guy slipped or that's a natural tackle that didn't quite work out, or, well, Canberra's fired his midriff into his chin. I mean, there's a whole host of weird scenarios that you can put round about that, which, maybe isn't for this particular podcast. But, yeah, it's a scandal. The sad thing is, and I can hear it both in the quietness of you listening and in the timbre of my voice, is it's just this sad acceptance that nobody's surprised that these decisions get made, because they get made in every single game, often multiple times. And that's where we are with Scottish football officiating.
Well, listen, see, during the international break, I'm just going to have a podcast where I just list decisions. So that's it. We head down the road. A 1-0 win. Scott, just points over performance?
100% for me, without any debate at all. Win the game. If you'd offered me a 1-0 before the game started, I would have taken it without any question at all. We have to get back into that routine of winning games, just winning games, getting 3 points back into the board, and looking ahead to the next game. Take your 3 points and get on with it. So, yes, win's a win.
The right of it there, absolutely straight on. Points, the priority, performance would have been great, but absolutely 3 points, snatch and grab, get back down the road.
Well, at least it gets easier. On Thursday, we welcome Bayer Leverkusen to Ibrox. Currently, they're fourth in the German league, behind Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, and RB Leipzig. The last 5 games have won 4, drew 1. The one draw came away at Leipzig, and their last game they were 4-0 up against Frankfurt inside 55 minutes, and then they rested some players. So, Scott, easy game?
I've got no fears whatsoever, Mark. No, listen, this will be our toughest game of the season. And exactly the same way that I felt Braga in the previous round was the toughest game, then you're quite clearly the cream of the crop of this competition. Now, for every team that you come up against and are lucky enough to defeat and put out, you know that the next team you're going to play are going to be better. And Leverkusen will be a really, really tough ask. But these guys seem to save their best performances from Europe, and when the Europa League music starts, it gives them a bit more of a, I don't know if urgency is the right word, but it certainly G's them up a little bit. You wouldn't be at all surprised if Rangers got a result on Thursday night at Ibrox at all. And it's purely based on the way that they've been playing in Europe this season. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they got something on Thursday night.
To put it into some kind of perspective, Thomas, Braga sold a player to Barca for, I think it was it 20 million? Yeah, and Bayer Leverkusen's top talent, Kai Havertz, is worth around 100 million. So and also in the last round they beat Porto home and away. Now I know we played Porto in the groups and we beat them at Ibrox and we get a good result over there, but they comfortably beat Porto home and away.
Yeah, I mean, Havertz aside, because the boy's an absolute talent. I think the major differences between this Bayer Leverkusen side and the Braga side are, when the Braga draw was made, people got a false opinion because they'd had a bit of a bad spell, and then they went on a really good run, and people saw them for the good team that they were. They play that high line, and there was an ability to get at Braga. And if we're being really honest with ourselves as well, as much as it was an unforgettable night at Ibrox, if Braga had taken the chances that they really created in those first 20 minutes, it would have been a really subdued place because they'd have probably been out of sight. They didn't take all the chances that they made, and they made some absolute stone cold chances that they should have put away. I think Scott's absolutely right. We'll have to absolutely step up our performance and be, like the Rangers of the first 6 months of the season. But also, I think Leverkusen are of the kind of calibre that the chances they make, they will probably take, and we're on to a real tough evening. That said, I'm of the same opinion. It wouldn't surprise me if we went out and got a goal early, and then, Leverkusen didn't know what had hit them. So all think, hope springs eternal and all that, and I'll be there in my hazmat suit, refusing to touch anybody, along with everybody else. But it's going to be a difficult game. I'm just looking earlier on Twitter, etc. Leverkusen's Twitter account. I put out some notices about the return leg and what would happen there, and there seems to be a bit of debate on some of that, but that's for a later time period. Absolutely, I think we'll get a... Do you know what? You said I was on the fence earlier. Was one of the other questions, so I'll go with this one. I think we'll beat Leverkusen at Ibrox on Thursday. There you go.
Well...
I'm not coming back on.
Scott, they tend to play a 3-4-3. Sometimes they play a 4-2-3-1, but they tend to play a 3-4-3, which was similar to Braga. So I'll come to you for your lineups in a minute. But what does this Rangers team need to do to secure a result on Thursday?
I think they need big performances from all your obvious guys. They'll need Alan McGregor to be his brilliant best. They'll need the two centre halves to play very well. They'll need a strong midfield, and they'll need Morelos to score, or someone to score. I think for the benefit of the team, I think it would be really handy if Morelos pulled a decent performance out of his backside on Thursday night. I think whoever plays in that sort of midfield threesome will have a bit of a job on. They're going to be playing against a really, really first-class team, good unit, strong unit, German team. They're just not weak. Any German team that I've seen at Ibrox has always came with mental and general hard strength. Thursday will be no different. So we'll need big performances straight through the middle of the team. McGregor, Goldson, whoever plays alongside Goldson, which we'll probably cover shortly. And we'll need some real strength up front with Morelos, because he's going to need to hold up the ball, and he's going to hope that guys like Kent and I suspect probably Scott Arfield, if he's fit, can get in there close and cause them some problems.
Well, the two bits of injury news that I've seen so far is their top scorer, Kevin Volland. He's out injured, and their experienced centre-back Lars Benders, I doubt.
Indeed.
Now, Tommy, I'll ask you an easy question.
A sense of doom coming there.
Bayer Leverkusen or Celtic, what game's more important?
Oh, that's...
I'm glad I asked you.
Sorry, you're breaking up there. I didn't quite see that. That's a really interesting... If I can ask a question about that question...
No.
The politician coming out in there. Would the result on Wednesday mean that we went through to the next round?
No, you can't ask that question.
In that case, I think I'm going to say... no, I can't do it. Sunday.
Sunday, Celtic game.
I tried to. Do you know what? Based on it's not mathematically out of the question to win the title, and I think there will be one or two more wee twists, and we've got Sunday and a trip to whatever it is they play to come as well. Hope springs again eternal. That said, would it be great to get into the last 8 of a European competition in Gerrard's second season? It would be massive, but given that it's not mathematically impossible, I think I might go back to actually saying Wednesday. I'm turning into Hugh Keevins here by saying that Sunday's the only thing that matters. No, stuff it. I'll go for Wednesday.
We bring you on the pod and you sit on the fence. And
Those of a certain age group, I'll call myself the judge, just like Ali McLeod.
Right, Scott, your starting lineup for Thursday.
Right, this is an easy one, Martin, so thanks very much for that. So he'll start. He'll go with McGregor. I think Tavernier will be fit, so he'll start at right back. I think he'll go with Goldson and Helander. I think he'll play Barisic at left back. Across the middle of the park, I think he'll go with Jack, Davis and Aribo. I think he'll go with Arfield, Kent and Morelos. I think he'll start Hadji on the bench on Thursday night.
Thomas, do you agree?
Broadly, yes. I think that's fairly spot on. I think the only difference I might drop in there is instead of Aribo, maybe Kamara. And Jack's obviously got that wee injury out as well with his knee. The only reason I say maybe Kamara instead of Aribo is that Gerrard might try and pack that midfield to make it difficult to play through, which plays to Bayer's strength, and make them go long and hope that we can slightly soak it up, as opposed to allowing them to, go man for man in the midfield and try and play through us. And then get, Morelos to try and run the channels and open things up. That's the only thing I could think of. But I think one of the key things that Scott's picked up there, I think Helander will absolutely come back in if he's in any way, shape or form.
And final question on Bayer. Thomas, give me a result.
I think that Rangers will beat Bayer 2-1.
Scott?
I think we'll beat them 2-0, Martin.
Even better.
No comment.
What do you think the score will be, out of curiosity?
You can't Dutch out of that. You have to answer as well, surely.
I think my opinion on the score will be edited out. One each. I'll go for one each. I think it'll be one each. Right, before we come on to Sunday.
Sorry, Martin, if you don't mind me asking, are both of your score lines predicated on Rangers scoring first?
No, they're just predicated on the fact that I actually think we're going to lose and I just want to pretend it's 1-1. Right, before we move on to Sunday's game against them, let's talk a wee bit about Borna Barisic. Thomas, I'm going to put you as the director of Tottenham when you're looking for a left back and you see this Croatian at Rangers and you scout him. How much would you be offering for him?
Well, I think that's an interesting one. Left backs are generally a premium anyway, and you've got an established, mature 27, 28-year-old. I think something like 12 caps for Croatia, 12 full international caps for Croatia. Cemented first choice left back, performed well in the Europa League, performing well for Croatia. We know that performing well in the SPFL, unfortunately, doesn't always translate into big money. I think if he's going to Tottenham, who have got a bit of money, I think you're looking at probably somewhere, and I've seen some of the numbers quoted, but I think you're probably looking at somewhere, north of 15 million, based on maybe on the age in particular. Some people might challenge that, but I'm not entirely sure that the immediate bids, you could maybe get up to the 20 odds, but I don't think the immediate bids would maybe start there. And that's not me downplaying him. I'm a big lover of Borna Barisic, but I think that's maybe where conversation might start.
And Scott, I'll put you as Ross Wilson, and Tottenham come to you and they say, "We want your left back. Here's 22 million." What do you say? I'll
just
drive
give
him
me the
down
money.
myself.
Just give me the money. Absolutely give it. And I'll tell you the reason why I like Barisic. I think, as Tommy's sort of quite rightly pointed out, sort of first choice left back for Croatia, international caps. I think it's easy to forget that. I think Gerrard went through a huge period of his Rangers career, Barisic's Rangers career, and he just didn't fancy him that much. He just didn't get him. And I think there was a general consensus amongst the Rangers support, perhaps up until the beginning of this season, that he was just a wee bit too timid and just was never going to be a Rangers left back. The moment for me that all changed was when he curled that free kick in against St Mirren at St Mirren earlier on in the season. That was when Borna Barisic's Rangers career, for me, turned on a bit of a sixpence, and he became one of these guys that was someone who you would absolutely pick to play left back for his marauding runs and all that down the left hand side. But up until then, I think he was a bit hit or miss. There's always a concern if he gets injured, how long is he going to be out for? When are you going to see him again if he picks up a wee knock? If Tottenham were to offer us £22 million in the summer for Borna Barisic, I absolutely would expect us to take it.
No, yeah, I completely agree. Right, let's move on to Sunday then. And it's fair to say that we're not coming into this in the richest vein of form. But, Thomas, form kind of goes out the window in these games. I know it's an old cliche, but it's true.
Well, yeah, to a certain extent it is, and I agree with you. I think the roles are slightly reversed from maybe the 29th of December, whereby we were coming in riding on the crest of a blue wave, so to speak, and Celtic were a fairly low ebb in the tide. I think they're certainly up for it. I imagine, in their dressing room, expect to come and essentially end the title race and do it in our backyard, which is why I think they'll go two up top, Griffiths and Edouard. I don't think they'll try and play for a draw or try and hit us on the break. I think they'll go for it. They'll go for the jugular. Certainly, we've got a lot to prove, and I'm hoping that with the full crowd behind them, Aurora and Ibrox coming off the back of what I hope is a decent performance against Leverkusen, that we put in the kind of performance that we know that this squad is capable of, and that's the frustrating thing. They went off the boil. It's not that they're bad players, and I'm really hoping that could be another wee spark plug to the back end of the season by getting a result on Sunday. But it's going to be difficult. Celtic have really got their tails up at the moment. Quite literally, they are playing well, unfortunately.
Scott, these players have proved that when it comes to the big games, they're more than a match for anybody.
Yes, I think that the two games we've got at Ibrox this week, we've already spoke about Leverkusen on Thursday night. The game on Sunday, as these games tend to do traditionally, they just take care of themselves. The players do tend to lift it for the bigger games at Ibrox. There's no two ways about that. The one thing that I do have as a concern just now, I think Tommy's sort of spoke about it very briefly there, is that since the game at their place in December, they've completely changed the way that they've played. They've changed their formation to basically see that we don't give them the going over that we gave them again, which means that on Sunday, in a very similar vein to how we'll play on Thursday, the guys really need to go above and beyond, and they need to give it both barrels. From the minute they walk out on the turf at noon on Sunday, they have to be ready to go, and they have to get right into their ribs from the outset. And I'll say it again, despite everything that's went on the last sort of 4-6 weeks since we came back after the winter break, you wouldn't be at all surprised if Rangers got 2 wins this week, and that's certainly what we're hoping for.
Thomas, what kind of game are you expecting on Sunday?
Well, I think to pick up on Scott's comments there, which I think are absolutely prescient and very perceptive as well, I think Celtic will look to dominate the ball, get it on top of our centre-back pairing really early, because there's perceived weakness there in terms of there's a lack of confidence in the centre-backs. I think it will start really quickly. I don't think it will be a cagey affair. And I think Rangers will need to... I'm trying my best to stay away from cliche bingo here. I think Rangers will have to win that battle and win the ball, so to speak, and show a bit of early fight, because I think there'll be a couple of initial tough challenges to see if Rangers are really up for it, or it's a case of minimising the score type of thing, testing our mettle. I think if Rangers can get an early goal, or even fashion a couple of decent early chances and get on top with the crowd rolling them on, I think we can absolutely see our way to a result. But I think it will be a really, really open affair. I think both teams will be going for it, because I think both teams really, really want the win. Rangers to get back into the title challenge, and Celtic to what they would imagine to absolutely kill it off right in front of us. So I think it will be both barrels, no holds barred, free for all, claw hammers in a darkened garage, everybody screaming type of scenario, whatever your pleasure is. But really full guns going for the first whistle.
I think as well, Martin, if I can just sort of pipe in there, I think the league quite, for an outsider looking at our league, it would suggest that Rangers have been miles off it and are right now miles off it. We are not miles off of this Celtic team just now. We went to their place in December and gave them an absolute doing. There is nothing to fear from this Celtic team, absolutely nothing. And the guys need to, I've heard Steven Gerrard speak in the last couple of weeks when we have been struggling with confidence, we absolutely have. But he speaks about how he's looking to these players to, shoulders back, chest out, and get on with it. If there's ever a time that applies, it's absolutely Sunday. Not Thursday, but Sunday is absolutely the time to stick your chest out and be aware what's on your chest and get out there and get on with it.
Scott, does a win realistically give us any hope in this title race?
It gives you 3 points and it pushes you 3 points closer to them. I think Tommy's right. There's still scope for a couple of things to maybe go wrong for them. They are playing well. The reality is that we've had a really shoddy couple of weeks where we've dropped points where we shouldn't have dropped, but we know all about that now. It's in the past. You have to hope that they do drop points now, regardless of what we do on Sunday. If we beat them on Sunday, it just pushes us 3 points closer to them. We've got a game in hand which we still need to take care of. Our main problem after the Old Firm game may very well be our consistency between then and the end of May when the trophies have got handed out.
Yeah.
Thomas, how big a game is Sunday for Gerrard? And I ask because anybody can lose an Old Firm game, but if we go into it in the same form that we've showed, then there's every chance that we could take a hammering. So how important is it for Gerrard that the players at least show fight on Sunday?
I think that's a key point. You're right. Anybody can lose any game, right? No, not even just an Old Firm game. We saw that against Hamilton, right? If you're a very low ebb, or you don't take your chances, or whatever happens, that's football. It's one of the reasons why we love it, so to speak. I think it is all about performance. I think if we were to even be narrowly defeated, but it be a tug of war, two players, standing on the toes in the line, hammering each other on the jaw, type of thing, then we would be behind it. I should point out I'm a massive believer in Gerrard and think he's the right man for the club and he should absolutely stay. But could he survive the negative wave if it turned into a 5-1 or something similar? And there was echoes of Coutinho and this type of thing. That would be really difficult. He's not had anything like that. All the performances against Celtic have been extremely good, or at least competitive. Maybe the 1-0 when we came back from Ufa wasn't really the best. But I think performance is, for on this one, maybe equally as important as result. I could never downgrade the result to be less important, but I think the performance, particularly for some players, more so than Gerrard, there's really got to be some standing up and delivering big moments from some of the big players as well, because they might not be able to recover in the fans' eyes, as opposed to Gerrard.
Right, Scott, I'll come to you first for the lineups. But what I will ask is, because both these games are at Ibrox on the Thursday and the Sunday, depending obviously on the result and performance from Thursday, do you think there'll be many changes?
I think a lot will depend on how the game goes on Thursday, to be honest with you. I think if Steven Gerrard starts Helander on Thursday night, for example, and he gets maybe an hour to 90 minutes of him, rarely see a centre-half substituted, of course, but in Helander's case, with him being out for such a long period of time, if he does start, I'd like to think that Gerrard would like to give him the full 90. If he comes through that 90 minutes unscathed, then I would expect him to start against Celtic. That said, he may fancy having someone a bit more bulkier in there, and that obviously points to Edmondson to play alongside Goldson for me. I don't think he'll start Katic because of the debacle that happened in Perth. I still think Katic is having to shake that off the system a little bit. I think there will be scope for him to change it. How he's going to do that will very much depend on how the result goes on Thursday.
Thomas, just on Katic. Katic has shown in Old Firm games especially that he is up to the challenge, and obviously in the last one he scored. Do you still expect, like what Scott's saying, for Helander to play and Katic to miss out?
I think you're right. I think Katic has played extremely well the game at their place. I'm inclined to agree with Scott, though. I think in terms of his rashness, some of his positional naivety, I think there might just be a bit more room for, if it's not Helander, which I think would be Gerrard's preferred, then it will probably be Edmondson. That's not to say I don't like Katic. I think there's a player in there, but there's also maybe a confidence issue a wee bit as well. On top of that, I just think that another change might be that, having previously said that I thought maybe Kamara would come in for Aribo in the Bayern game, I think Aribo will start against Celtic, because I think Gerrard will look to play through them a bit more, and I think Aribo offers you a bit more of that than Kamara, obviously.
And finally, predictions, Scott.
I think we'll win 1-0 on Sunday.
And who do you think will score?
I'm going to say Morelos.
Thomas?
A barnstormer of a 3-1 victory for Rangers, with goals from Hagi, Morelos and Aribo.
Did you stop drinking after Sunday at all? No?
It's like the team from Aeroplane. I picked the wrong month to stop sniffing glue. No, I think this week Rangers will actually turn up, and I think it will reignite at the back end of the season. I don't think the players have got any other option. Let's put it that way.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, that'll do us for this week. But just before we go, for anybody listening, just to let you know that we've updated our website. We've got a brand new website. It's thisisibrox.co.uk. So get yourself over to that. You can see the blogs and the articles, match previews. Go and give it a look. If you want to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at This Is Ibrox. Facebook.com/This Is Ibrox. Instagram, search This Is Ibrox. You get the picture. If anybody wants to follow yourself, Scott, on Twitter,
they can get me at Scotty Patterson 6.
And Thomas?
You can get me at Tommy in Glasgow. That's Tommy N Glasgow.
And if you want to get me, it's D89 Martin. You can also download the podcast. We're now on all the podcast apps, iTunes, iCloud, Podbean, you name it, we're on it. So all that's left for me to do is say thank you very much to Scott.
Cheers, Martin. Thanks.
And thanks very much to Tommy for coming on at short notice.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. So until next week, take care. Bye.